You got to have depth on defense. Is there more this year on the defensive side of the ball when the 53-man comes out? We're going to give you the top 5 positional locks on the defensive side of the ball today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, friends and neighbors. It's Locked On Chiefs, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for free. If you would like sub and hit the bell on YouTube, we'd appreciate it. I hope you heard our Father's Day episode yesterday, because that leads up into today's look at the defensive side of the ball. Not only volume, but who are locked in. The top 5 positional groups, we're going to go through who we feel is locked right now. And it does have an effect on what we talked about yesterday and how many offensive players we feel are locked. So we're going to dig deep into it. This is about team building. You can find more on team building over at NFL33.com, where I run my site with my staff, and we look at across the league. It's outside of the Kansas City Chiefs. You can look at Rogue APC if you want the matrix and all the team building things for the draft and personnel. And you definitely want to check out RGR Football. There's a lot going on. And I know it's that point in the season, but this is the critical stuff that we need to have our eyes on come training camp.
Yeah, I think it's Ryan Tracy because he didn't introduce himself, but I will just throw that out there. Yeah, he's waving at people. For those of you just listening that can't see him waving. I'm Chris Clark, fan of Chiefs Corner. You can find me there at Chiefs Corner. I'm going to be talking a lot about Chiefs this upcoming football season and training camp. Really looking forward to that. Yeah, we did start on offense yesterday. We're trying to talk about defense today, and I just want to throw this out there and get it out of the way because I think it does affect the 53, and it obviously affects 53. But I think that you have locks for all the specialists, right? You're not going to have, Winchester and Butker and Townsend are all going to be back. So,
agreed.
Just going to throw it out there. So we're done with the entire roster after talking about the defense right now.
Yes, and so what we determined yesterday is that there were enough locks plus a couple of competition points that we had 24 on offense, which means we're looking at 26 possible positions on the defensive side of the ball for the 53-man roster. And yes, all the specialists are locked. Unlike the offensive side of the ball, this is nowhere near as clear cut. There's a lot of youth on the defense. And so we're going to name in each positional group, the top 5 position groups are going to have a couple of locks. It's not going to be as thick and decided as the offensive side. So I think we should start up front. You good with that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so on the defensive line, starters, Clark, Karlaftis, Chris Jones, Derek Nottie. Not a problem.
Yeah, I think we need to talk about DTs versus DNs, though. I think we ought to start with DT. It's just easier to keep all of them, to keep it separate and think of them in those groups. So DT, Jones, Nottie, Wharton, I think is a lock. And honestly, that might be the only 3 that are locks.
That could be the only 3. You're right. Those are the only locks. I would agree with you there. So, folks, 3 locks at the first positional group. Then it comes into, I think Saunders makes the roster. I won't say he's locked because they brought in Stallworth for a reason. Now, Stallworth is a one-hit wonder in terms of pass rush. So I cannot say that he will definitely make it either. So I think the 2 of them are fighting for a spot.
Yeah, and it could be somebody that we don't even know right now.
In terms of an acquisition, or you think there's more depth with like Cortez Broughton? Or
I'm just saying that who knows who's going to show up. We didn't expect Wharton to make it the year he came in. So we have to wait and see, especially when you start getting into guys that are going to be fighting with their hands, defensive linemen, offensive linemen. You're going to be dealing with guys that aren't really going to be able to show much in OTAs and in mini camps. I mean, yeah, you can see where they're running. You can see if they know the offense or the defense, depending on which side of the ball you're on. But until you get, in training camp and see what they're able to do with their hands and with their technique and all of that, which they're not going to be able to do until the pads come on. Yeah. I would guess you're probably right. I guess it's going to be Saunders or it could be, Stallworth. But there's an outside chance that it could be somebody that we don't even know right now.
Let me ask you this then. There's 3 locks. We agree on that. Are there 2 other spots? Do they keep 5 thinking that they're going to keep 26 on defense overall?
I don't think so.
No? Okay.
I don't see it unless one of the players forces it. I think that they're going to figure they're going to go in the season with 4, and then you're going to have a couple on the practice squad. Okay. And we didn't even talk about that on offense yesterday. That's going to play into how many they keep and who they keep at different positions as well, because they can activate guys on a weekly basis. I think that you're going to probably only keep 4 DTs because you're going to have to keep so many defensive ends, and you have a problem at the corner and the safety position.
Yeah. And there are only 6 defensive tackles in camp. So Broughton is the last one. Cortez, I think he's on the outside. I think he's a practice squatter at best. So it really is. Do they keep 4? Do they keep 5? That will be the determination. At edge, you have Karlaftis and Jones as your starters. There is no question there. I'm sorry, not Jones. Clark. As much as people want to be worried about Frank's weight, et cetera, there really isn't a question. You're paying him $13 million. He better start for you. If he doesn't, then something is seriously broken. And I don't think it's that broken. Now, Mike Dan is a guy that can play on first down if he has to for Frank, if he is underweight, and he is going to be like the designated pass rush kind of role. So I think Dan is a lock as well.
I would agree with that. I think they have 3 locks right now. I think I think Kane is probably a lock, mainly because they drafted him for a reason, and he's going to be on the roster just because they're probably not going to give up after 1 year, especially at a premium position like that. The one thing I just want to throw this in real quick, I would not be shocked if they make a move and make a trade at defensive tackle or at defensive end. So just want to throw that out there. That could play into who ends up making the 53. I still think the guys that we talked about are locks and will be here regardless. But maybe they're able to get a guy at defensive tackle that somebody else doesn't have the depth for.
Yeah, it may absolutely be true. And in the end of the day, anything you can do to improve your front 4 is going to help this ball team overall. So I agree with you. I think Kano is very likely for the roster. I won't say a lock because I just haven't seen him enough to know. Herring, I think, is really intriguing. I'd like to think that he can push to make it. That's a bigger question. And then Austin Edwards and Ogini Hassan, I think they're practice squatters. I don't think there's a whole lot of option there.
Well, and Shalik Lahoon is technically going to be a DN too. He's not going to be
Forgot about
linebacker.
him. I would give him a better chance than Austin or Hassan.
I would too. And I will say this. I think Kando is a lock regardless of if they make a move. So we can agree to disagree on that one. And like I said, for me, it's not necessarily because of what I've seen. It's because they drafted him in the 5th round and he plays a premium position. And it is going to be very hard to find guys that can get after the quarterback regardless. So to me, I think they keep him. And I think he's a lock. So to me, I'd say there's 4. The question is how many DNs are they going to keep overall? They're going to keep
I think
5.
you got to keep. They have to keep 5 no matter what. Especially if you think there could be an acquisition coming, because you have to be able to churn that role.
Right.
I don't think there's any way around that. But
so right now we're 9.
Quite now. Yeah, that's where we're at. Now, that's going to be special for somebody. It might not be something that you have to celebrate a huge milestone for, but maybe somebody gets engaged. If you are getting engaged or you're celebrating something super, super specific in a major milestone in your life, you want to get something special for it, and fine jewelry from BlueNile.com is the way to go. You can make it yourself. You can customize it. It can be a one-of-a-kind piece to celebrate whatever your occasion is. They have experts standing by 24/7 to help you do that, whether it's building an engagement ring, a pendant, an anklet, whatever you're looking to do. You can get it done at BlueNile.com. And our fans right now get $50 off of a $500 purchase just for using the code Locked On and telling them basically that you heard it here. It's a podcast exclusive. You get it insured free, you get it shipped free, and you get it in packaging that doesn't give away your surprise. So it takes the stress off of you and gives a great gift for him, her, whoever you're giving to. Go check out today and get your forever piece at BlueNile.com. Now moving to linebacker level, that gets bit more intriguing. This seems to be a conversation we have to have every year. And we know who the top 2 are. Nick Bolton, Willie Gay, and even Leo Chanel are locks no matter what. You cannot afford to pass on a high draft pick, a top 100 pick in Leo Chanel. So there's no way he's leaving. This is all, of course, barring injury, folks. So there's 3 locks no matter what. Then I think I'm iffy about an absolute lock at the depth positions. What do you think?
No, I think you're right. I think that the linebacker position is going to be something that's really going to play into how this roster is going to be made up. I mean, and I say that because I think they kept 6 last year from what I remember, and I don't expect them to keep 6 this year, especially with Chanel being able to do things that like play backup middle linebacker role. I think that's going to help keep the roster number down. So to me, I think you have the top 3 that are locks. I can't see any way that those 3 guys aren't on the 53-man roster. The question becomes, is Elijah Lee your guy? Is Carter your guy? Is it Rose? Is it, you have all these guys, Jack Cochran. I mean, you have a lot of names, but you don't really have an answer.
Harris has made this roster before.
That's true.
Yeah.
But I would also argue Darius Harris has made this roster when there wasn't a lot of talent at linebacker. And I'm not saying there's a ton of linebacker talent right now. I think the top 3 can be really good. But the question is depth, and is Harris good enough to be a depth piece on this roster, especially considering I believe he's a core special teams guy. So the question would become are any of the guys that are going to make the roster, can they take that from Harris, and can they differentiate themselves? I agree with you. Can they differentiate themselves enough to take a step forward in that pack of 4 or 5 linebackers?
I will tell you guys that I think the other lock, and this is a cheat, I freely admit it. I think the 4th lock is that either Jermaine Carter or Elijah Lee makes this roster. And I will share with you something that I found out, that Elijah Lee was taking first team snaps in mandatory minicamp, having gone over the top of Jermaine Carter, who, yes, was a starter in Carolina for 1 season, but has been a core special teamer his entire career. Both those guys play teams. Both those guys are as good or better than Darius Harris at playing special teams. And then it comes into a guy that you made an investment in as a UDFA, keeps your roster cheap, and can play the coverage as good as anybody on this roster right now. And that is Mike Rose. So I think there are 5 linebackers capped.
I agree with that. I will give it with this caveat, though. And this is a caveat that's really weird to use this year for Kansas City because they haven't been in a position to be able to do it before. Assuming they sign Orlando Brown, which we've already talked about, they're going to have some cap room. I agree Carter or Lee are on this roster. The one caveat I would say is if there is somebody that gets cut or there's somebody they think is going to get cut, that could be an improvement. Yeah. And that's possible, especially at a 4th linebacker role or 5th linebacker role. So if they can improve that spot, they will, and they're going to have the ability to pay some money to be able to do that as well, which they normally haven't had. Yeah. So I think that's a key.
I absolutely agree. And going back to our first segment discussion, I actually felt that there would be 10 defensive linemen kept. Probably 5 and 5 is my point. So that 5 linebackers, we're at 15, which means we have 11 spots left for the defensive backs. And I think that actually rings out pretty true into what they want to get done. That gives them the volume. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's assuming that they don't keep 25 on offense. Which
true. Yeah, we're just setting this up as the scenario.
Right.
We'll probably change it here in another week or 2, folks. Don't worry.
If I was betting, when training camp starts.
If I was betting, I would say there's probably 11 DBs, and I'd put that money on the line over at BetOnline because that's where you can get it done for all the props, everything you need coming football season. Who's going to win the Super Bowl? Yes, put your money on the Chiefs. I'm just saying. It might as well be about how many linebackers or how many DBs make this roster. That is over there. You can bet on baseball. You can bet on hockey. The NBA is done, which I'm fine with. I'm ready for college basketball, I'd tell you the truth. The hockey stuff's really fun. I think you guys should check that out. And you can get all that information, everything that you need to put your money on the line in a smart way with all the information that helps you be a winner over at BetOnline. You can even do MMA and boxing and golf. I didn't know you could bet on golf. I was wrong. Head over to the website today. Check it out. It's BetOnline, where the game starts. Okay, DBs. This is where it gets tricky, in my opinion. What do you think is the easier of the 2 positions to line out? Who's the locks for the DBs?
Safeties, I think, are easier than corners. I think you have Justin Reed, you have Thornhill, you have Cook. I think those are your 3 locks. I really don't have a great answer for who's going to be your 4 and 5. Bush could be it. Key could be there.
I think it's Bush and Anderson that fight for that 4th spot. I don't think. Let's see. We're talking. We have 11 left. We could keep 5.
Right. That's why. Yeah, and that's why I'm saying 4 and 5. I think they could keep 5. I think they could keep 4. I mean, it really is going to depend on how the rest of the roster shakes out. I think they at least keep 4. So, the question is, who's that 4th? Deion Bush has been a core special teams guy, so Anderson or Key would have to take a special teams role, which I think both of them have the ability to do if they're going to make this roster. But
agreed.
That's the question.
So how many are we saying? I'm saying 5.
I'm going to say 4.
Okay.
Because I still think that there's probably more offense, but that's okay.
No, let's
Corner
go
is a
with yours. Let's
mess.
go 4. Yeah, I was going to say, let's go with yours. So 4 safeties. We're going to say that for now. And then we will go back 7 DBs. So Snead's a starter. McDuffie's a starter. Those are the absolute locks.
Fenton.
Beyond that, I have come off of Fenton as a lock. If you can't practice, you can't make the roster. And he is now in the danger zone of being able to actually produce in camp enough to make the roster.
I completely disagree with you. I think he's going to be fine by training camp. I think his shoulder, they knew he was having shoulder surgery. They knew the timeline. I think he is going to be fine. And I think, at least from what I've heard, they expect him back for training camp. Andy Reid expects everybody to be ready for training camp. So now I will say that if he's not able to show up for training camp, that completely changes everything. But I think he's a lock because I think he's going to be fine. And it's just, there's no reason to rush him back to OTAs for things he's already done. So, and you've got a ton of youth playing at that position that need all the reps they can possibly get, including McDuffie, who is a lock.
Yes. So we have 2. You're saying Fenton's the 3rd. I think Johnson's a 4th. I'm not saying he's a lock. I'm saying he's the next in line. I think those 4 veterans are going to make this roster.
So you don't want to say he's a lock, but you think he's 4th in line. Okay. Just want to clarify that.
One of the rookies could come along. Josh Williams is going to push for reps. Yep. I think Jalen Watson has a lot to offer. There's still DeAndre Baker. I think all those guys could push Lonnie Johnson a little bit. But I do think he will stay ahead of him because of his experience.
Yeah, I could see that. And I could see a situation where you keep 6. I easily could see a situation where you keep 6 CBs. I think that's probably the reality, is that you're going to be keeping 6 CBs. Maybe you keep a 7th. But the question is 5, 6, and 7 are going to have to be guys that can be core special teams guys, and they're going to have to be guys that can contribute at those roles. And that's going to be something that's going to be a big deal. And you start looking at all the wide receivers, all the linebackers. Where are they going to play on special teams? Well, you got gunner roles, you have returner roles. I mean, there's all different sorts of places that those guys can take snaps and really contribute to this team, regardless of whether or not it's on defense.
I look at it this way: the top 4 will play on defense. The back 2 are going to be subs. If at best, they're going to be teamers. I think they might keep 3. So Josh Williams, Jalen Watson, the rookies, DiCaprio Bootle, DeAndre Baker, Chris Lamons. 5 guys for at max 3 spots. Likely only 2, but in our scenario right now today, we're at 7 left for CBs. So 3. Who makes it?
I think you're going to have a trade. I think they're going to be trading away some of those guys. Yeah, no, well, you look at those guys and you can make an argument for all of them. Baker hasn't shown what you would expect from a first-round pick, but has he been bad? No. Wouldn't say he's been bad. He hasn't played up to where he was drafted, maybe. I would agree with that, but he was also coming off a pretty bad injury. So, another year removed from that, is he going to be able to play better? We'll see. Bootle is a guy that I thought was playing pretty well last year. They kept him around, so they have interest there. Is he going to be able to take a step forward? And when it comes to the rookies, it's a huge jump for all of them. I mean, they have a huge jump to go from the level of competition they faced in college to the level of competition they're going to face in the NFL. So are you able to make that jump? Are you able to show that you belong on the NFL roster? Or are you going to be a guy that has to be on special teams for a year or two? Or sorry, not special teams, practice squad for a year or two.
Yeah. And that's really what it comes down to. In the end, I don't think DeAndre Baker makes it right now. I think it's Bootle and Josh Williams are your 5 and 6. If they keep 7, Lamons makes it. If he can hold off Jalen Watson, who doesn't have the speed to be a gunner. He can play on teams, but he can't be a gunner, in my opinion. So that's what it comes down to for me. Otherwise, I don't think Baker's eligible for the practice squad, as I understand.
I'm not sure.
Could be wrong.
They keep changing the rules every year.
Started in New York. Yeah. He's had enough volume of snaps. I don't know. But I think Lamons was a smart pickup. I think there's an off the field concern. And I think the rookies probably haven't swamped.
Well, and I would agree. I think that Lamons is a outside chance to make it, but he is a guy that I think played very well on teams last year when he was able to play, or when they had him. So I think that's something to watch. I think his off the field issue is taken care of. I don't think it's going to be an issue before training, or I think it'll be taken care of by the time the season starts. So the question is can either the rookies beat him out on special teams, because that's what they're going to have to do, because I don't think that they're going to be beating out any of the other guys for actual playing time.
Yeah.
The bigger problem
dig deeper
with
into this, folks.
I just will say real quick, the bigger problem with Lamons, though, is he doesn't really give you much on defense. So if you think either the rookies can give you anything on defense, you may have to go that direction, because injuries happen and you're going to need depth.
Absolutely. That's my thought as well. We want to know what you think, though. Where do you think they are? Do you agree with our locks? Do you like the depth? Who stays, who goes? Leave us in your comments on YouTube and in Spotify and the reviews, et cetera, et cetera. We hope that you enjoyed this. Matt, Derek will be back with us tomorrow. We'll continue to dig in as we get ready for training camp. It's all a run up to that now. St. Joe on July 27th. Thank you for listening today. We'll be back with you tomorrow.